Hi, I'm State Representative Shelley Rudnicki. I represent House District 67, which is Fairfield and Benton.
I'm Representative Gary Drinkwater, representing District 27, the 5 towns of Elton, Argyle, Bradford, Corinth, Hudson, and my hometown of Milford.
And we're here today to talk to you about why you should vote Republican this fall. And the topic of this segment is we need to stop taxpayer subsidies for both wind and solar. Gary, this is a tough issue.
Shelley, recently in the Bangor Daily News, an article about a small business in Milo, I think it's 4 employees. Their electric bill went up $6,000. And from what I understand, Shelley, that was per month. And I've talked to some employers, and I said, how much is your electric bill? And this was a processor of milk in southern Maine. He said, our electric bill is $100,000 a month. Those are a lot of Maine jobs, folks. This company does not have to stay in the state of Maine. They could move to New Hampshire and process milk and send it to Maine. But under the current subsidies for wind and solar, it's going to kill jobs in the state of Maine.
It is, Gary. Let me talk to you a little bit about what we're talking about when we say wind and solar subsidies. So basically what's happened in the state of Maine, and you'll see it everywhere, solar farms are popping up left and right. Now, there was a bill that was put forward several years ago. Now, originally it was a Republican bill. It was the Dow bill. But basically what it is, and it's saying that if you have solar, and it was supposed to be basically for homeowners to, when they have solar, that they wouldn't actually necessarily have to pay a full electric bill because they're having solar and they're putting some back on the grid. But what has happened with this is now these solar farms are coming in, and they are actually, I would say the majority of them are out-of-state companies. Now, almost 3 years ago, that's when you noticed your light bill started to climb. We could buy a kilowatt hour off the grid for about 5 cents a kilowatt hour. That was based on what we had for electricity then. That was based on your dams and getting it from hydropower and that type of thing. So 5 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, fast forward to where we're at now, we're actually paying over 25 cents a kilowatt hour for our electricity. Now, basically how that worked is this. There is such a thing called green energy and brown energy. And green energy is what their solar produces. And it's based on the number of kilowatt hours that they produce. So green energy is solar. Brown energy is hydro. Now that's crazy. When did water become brown energy? When did water not become green, Gary? I mean, come on. So because of that, we're now paying 25 cents a kilowatt hour. That's 5 times what we were paying just 3 years ago. So keep that in mind on all these solar farms popping up. And a lot of them are not even hooked up to the grid. Not yet. And they're getting state subsidies. The state subsidies mean that you are paying for your light bill more than once. You have your light bill, and then your tax dollars is going to subsidize these companies because they need more money because it costs more money for solar.
Shelley, Representative Foster, who was the lead Republican on the Energy Committee, he put in a bill with the consent of the public advocate who came to our caucus to say this is not affordable for Mainers. And in his opinion, Foster's bill makes sense. So Foster's bill comes up to the floor of the House. Ladies and gentlemen, good news. The Democrats agreed with us. We need to reduce the subsidies for these wind and solar. It goes to the Senate. I can't remember what happened in the Senate, Shelley, but when it came back to the House for the final vote, which meant it would have went to the governor's desk for her signature, the leadership of the Democratic Party convinced enough House Democrats to change their vote. And that's where we are today.
Do you think anybody's lining their pockets on this, Gary? I mean, the rumor's always been that we have a certain senator, national senator, that lined his pockets on wind for years. Now it looks like we're having some similar issues going on with solar.
Absolutely. Now, Shelley, on the other side of the coin, I have talked to some farmers that said, listen, my prices for my goods are stagnant. And I am going to take my fields and I can lease them out. And one farmer told me he was getting $35,000 a year to lease his land out. And we've pointed out that these solar panels have a lot of hazardous material in them. And we were concerned about what's going to happen to the windmills and the panels when they no longer work, what's going to happen to them. And we introduced a bill, Beth O'Connor, to say you need to have a plan before you can build on how to dispose of these things. That bill did not pass. Our concern was contamination of the land.
Well, that's the big concern right there. And I remember when Representative O'Connor was talking about this, I actually learned a lot from her because she was really good on the Energy Committee. And one of the things that she was talking about was that with the leaking of them, and they disintegrate over a period of time. Now, we already have farmland that we've lost because of PFAS issue. I deal with it in my community's dealing with it, but basically all across the state. We've already lost farmland for that. I understand with these farmers that cannot farm that land now, want to lease that, but when you're talking good farmland and then you're putting solar panels on them. Now, here's my thing. Remember the controversy over the corridor going up to the Canada that comes right down through
Quebec,
here?
yes.
Okay, so the big controversy on that was that they cut a 25-yard swath through the area, and it's affecting animals and stuff. Have you actually gone by a solar farm that isn't fenced in? Where are the deer going now from then, Gary?
The Sportsman's Alliance of Maine has come forward and said our concern is that the fields that used to support deer grazing, the raccoons, the foxes, have now been fenced off, and that was a concern.
And I hadn't heard that, but I certainly believe that. And the other thing you have to stop and think about that is it's pushing those animals into more homes. I actually saw somebody had posted something just yesterday that we have coyotes that are coming out in the middle of the day in residential areas. Gary, they're pushing them too far out. They're pushing it back into the residential areas because they're taking away these type of lands to where they usually are.
Absolutely. So, Shelley, I guess the bottom line is, folks, give us a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and we can stop these high prices of electricity. Vote Republican.
Vote Republican. Thank you.